My mom made me practice my false testimony at the dinner table between bites of spaghetti, then told me to cry harder during the bathrobe part. When I finally told her I wouldn't testify again, she sat on my bed with a pill bottle and said, "If you're calling me a liar, I can't live with that." I just walked out. That was 6 weeks ago. Last night, she locked herself in the bathroom and cried so quietly I almost missed it. My mother coached me on the exact words to say in court about how my father hurt me. I practiced my testimony at the dinner table between bites of spaghetti, while she corrected my performance like a pageant mom on steroids. More tears during the bathrobe part, she'd say, twirling her fork. "And don't forget to stutter when you mention the bedroom." Yeah, normal Tuesday night at my house. My parents divorced when I was 5. Mom was about to get the kind of alimony that wouldn't cover a Netflix subscription. Then suddenly, boom, recovered memories. She dragged me to a doctor whose office smelled like vanilla candles and broken dreams. This woman had lost her license in 2 states, which apparently made her perfect for mom's purposes. "Show me on the doll where daddy hurt you," Dr. Hendricks would coo, holding up these anatomically correct dolls that looked like they'd seen some shut-tea. I didn't remember anything like what she said happened, but mom would wake me at 2 a.m. like some demented tooth fairy. "Any new memories tonight, sweetie? Try harder. Mommy needs you to remember." By age 7, I had more fictional memories than a creative writing major, but they were believable, simply because I believed her. Dad got 8 years. The gallery might as well have applauded my performance. Oscar-worthy, apparently. Fast forward to last month. I'm 20. Mom sits me down with my siblings. Twins, 14. She's got that look. The one that says, "Mommy needs another favor that'll destroy someone's life. Your sister's remembering things," she announces. Our doctor friend is helping her. She slides over my old testimony. I saw how it was highlighted, annotated, all in mom's handwriting. Cry here. Pause for effect. Remember to shake. For the first time in my life, I realized how little freedom I had over my own thoughts. That night, I turned into Nancy Drew on Red Bull. Found mom's journal hidden behind her wedding dress. She kept it because of course she did. Pages of notes. Session 4, finally mentioned bath time. Session 12, perfect testimony run through, but remind her about drowning at age 3. Use for bath fear. Then I found the box. Letters, dozens, all from dad, all unopened. The first one destroyed me. I don't blame you. I know this isn't your fault. When you're ready for the truth, I'll be waiting. 15 years of letters, birthday cards, all saying he loved me, forgave me, would wait forever. The most recent had his address. I drove there that night, shitty apartment above a hardware store. When he opened the door, we both just stood there leaking face water like broken faucets. His place was sadder than a canceled TV show, but covering one wall, every school photo of me he could find. This man had been collecting my yearbook photos like Pokemon cards. "I know it was lies," I said. He showed me everything. Psychological evaluations, mom's therapist shopping records, court documents her lawyer buried. Turns out mom interviewed 6 therapists before finding our current one, Dr. Hendricks, like Goldilocks, but for child abuse fabricators. I told mom I wouldn't testify for her ever again. She escalated faster than a Twitter argument. First, emotional terrorism. She sat on my bed with a med bottle saying, "If you're calling me a liar, I can't live with that." Grandma flew in from Florida to ask if I wanted to be responsible for mom's death. Nothing says family support like assisted emotional blackmail. Then legal threats, like the restraining order against dad for manipulation. My boss got calls demanding I be fired. My best friend blocked me faster than you can say guilty until proven innocent. But mom got cocky, started sending emails at 2 a.m. saying, "You will testify or everyone will know what he did to your sister too. Remember, you were daddy's favorite, just like your sister is now." Then other victims started reaching out. Turns out Dr. Hendricks had a whole franchise operation, 12 families, all divorces, all moms who got full custody and fat settlements. I forwarded everything to dad's lawyer. Police raided Dr. Hendricks' office, found recordings of mom literally coaching my siblings like some twisted acting coach. The night before her arrest, Sewer's lied attempt. And of course she made sure to put me in her note. Now my entire family is turning against me. It took a turn I never expected. I sat in the police station bathroom, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. The screen lit up with another voicemail notification. My cousin's voice played through the speaker, each word hitting like a physical blow. "Family killer, murderer, how could you do this to your own mother?" I deleted it without listening to the end, just like the 12 others before it. The detective knocked on the door again, harder this time. I splashed cold water on my face and opened it. He looked exhausted, his tie loose around his neck. He led me back to the interview room where I'd been for the past 3 hours, explaining everything about mom's coaching, the false memories, Dr. Hendricks' operation. The fluorescent lights made everything look sickly green. He slid a paper across the table. Mom was conscious but restrained at the hospital. They needed me to come identify some items from her house. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. The drive to the hospital felt endless. Every red light gave me more time to think about what I'd done, what I'd exposed. The radio played some cheerful pop song that made me want to scream. At the hospital, they led me through endless corridors that smelled like disinfectant and despair. Through the observation window, I saw her. Mom lay propped up in the bed, her wrists secured with soft restraints. Our eyes met through the glass. Her lips moved slowly, deliberately. "You called me." The nurse adjusting her IV drip didn't notice, but I saw mom's finger tapping against the bed rail. The same rhythm she used when coaching my testimony all those years ago. Tap, tap, pause, tap, tap, tap. I stumbled backward, bumping into a nurse carrying a tray of medications. The pills scattered across the floor like confetti at the world's worst party. She looked up at me, annoyed at first. Then her expression shifted to something else. Recognition. I'd seen that look too many times in the past 24 hours. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. She made me lie about drowning. The nurse backed away slowly, her hand reaching for her badge. I heard her whisper to the security guard by the elevator. "That's the daughter who turned her mother in, the one from the news." The guard's hand moved to his radio. I fled down the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. My phone buzzed constantly. Uncle James had left 3 messages. I finally answered on the 4th call. He didn't bother with pleasantries. His voice was all business, the way it got when he was closing a real estate deal. He needed my signature for mom's psychiatric hold. "Standard procedure," he said, but there was a catch. There always was with family. He also wanted me to sign papers transferring grandma's house, the one where my twin siblings currently lived with mom, the one with the good school district and the big backyard where we used to have family barbecues before everything went to hell. If I didn't sign, he couldn't guarantee the twins would have stable housing during mom's treatment. If I did sign, I'd be giving up any claim to the only real asset our family had left. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. The twins' school had called him. Rumors were spreading like wildfire. Kids could be cruel, and having a mother in psychiatric hold and a sister who'd exposed family secrets wasn't exactly social currency in middle school. He could pick them up, but I had to decide. Confront Mom now while she was vulnerable, maybe get her to admit everything on record, or protect my siblings from the immediate social destruction heading their way. I stood in the hospital parking lot, watching Mom's window from below. Her hand was still moving, still tapping that rhythm. Even from here, I could see the tremor in her fingers. The same tremor I'd had when I gave my false testimony 13 years ago. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, even when the tree is poisonous. I texted Dad, get the twins, please. That meant Mom would have 3 hours before I could get back. 3 hours to call her lawyer. 3 hours to spin her narrative. 3 hours to turn me from whistleblower to vindictive daughter in the eyes of anyone who'd listen. And people always listen to Mom. She had that gift. The school emails started immediately. Absence notifications, tardy warnings, policy reminders about early dismissal procedures, each one a small bureaucratic slap. Dad texted back. He was 20 minutes away from the school. The emergency custody filing deadline was in 2 hours. The lawyer needed documents. The court needed forms. Everyone needed something from me. And I was standing in a hospital parking lot, paralyzed. The detective called. He needed my official statement today. The window for certain charges was closing. If I didn't come in by 5, some evidence might not be admissible. But handling the twins' school crisis would take at least that long. Every choice meant sacrificing something else. Mom had taught me well. She'd turned my life into a chess game where every move hurt someone I loved. I drove to the school anyway. The principal's office smelled like coffee and disappointment. Parents whispered in the waiting area, their eyes following me. The secretary handed me forms without making eye contact. Dad arrived just as I finished signing the twins out. He looked older than when I'd seen him last week. This was aging him in dog years. The twins sat between us and Dad's truck, neither speaking. My brother stared out the window. My sister picked at a hole in her backpack. The silence was suffocating. Finally, my brother spoke. His voice was small, defensive. Well, Mom's bedside manner involves tapping out coaching signals while pretending to be unconscious. That's some next level commitment to the performance. Mom bought me the Xbox when Dad left us. She said he didn't want us anymore. Dad's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. I wanted to scream that Dad hadn't left, that he'd been in prison, that Mom had put him there with lies she'd made me tell. But looking at my brother's face, I couldn't. He was 14. His world was already crumbling. Did he need the whole truth right now? Or did he need to believe in something, even if that something was a lie? My phone rang. Mom's lawyer. I let it go to voicemail. Then a text popped up. A notification from the court system. Emergency restraining order filed. My presence at the school had been documented as disrupting minors' education. Mom's lawyer worked fast. Even from a hospital bed, restrained and sedated, Mom was 3 moves ahead. Back at the hospital, I had to return. The security guard who'd been by the elevator earlier caught my arm gently as I passed. He glanced around, then leaned in close. His breath smelled like cigarettes and mint gum. Your mom went to the bathroom during intake, disposed of something in the medical waste bin. Might have been papers, might have been nothing. The footage from that camera gets overwritten every 24 hours. That was 23 hours ago. My heart hammered against my ribs. Evidence. Mom had destroyed evidence. But without the footage, it was just the word of a security guard who probably made $15 an hour. He saw my face fall. He pulled out a small notebook, showed me where he'd written down the time and his observations. I could testify, he said, if it helps. But I got no proof now, just what I saw. I thanked him and stumbled back outside. The local news van was parked by the exit. The reporter I recognized from Mom's previous interviews about being a struggling single mother. She'd always been sympathetic to Mom's story. Now she thrust a microphone in my face. Her cameraman was already rolling. The questions came rapid fire. How does it feel to destroy your family? Do you stand by your accusations? What about your siblings? I tried to push past, but she followed. My no comment came out as a stammered whisper. I looked exactly like what Mom would want me to look like. Exhausted, unhinged, the daughter who'd lost her mind and turned on her loving mother. That night, I sat in Dad's apartment while the twins slept on the pull-out couch. The news played my stammering on repeat. The headline scrolled beneath, local daughter's shocking betrayal leaves mother hospitalized. They'd edited out the part where the reporter had physically blocked my path. All that showed was me, looking guilty and crazy, unable to form coherent sentences. Dad muted the TV. We sat in silence, watching my face on screen. I looked like a stranger. Hollow eyes, tangled hair, clothes I'd been wearing for 2 days. Mom would be pleased. She'd always said I didn't photograph well. Now the whole city could see it. The twins' therapist called the next morning. She needed Mom's consent to continue their sessions. Without it, she'd have to file a report with CPS about the family trauma. Another catch-22. Let the twins lose their therapist during the worst crisis of their lives, or give Mom another weapon to use against me. The therapist sounded genuinely sorry. She'd been seeing the twins for 2 years. She knew them. She cared. But her hands were tied by legal requirements and professional ethics. I was learning that Mom had thought of everything. Every system designed to protect children could be weaponized if you knew how. Every professional who might help had protocols that could be exploited. Every good intention could be twisted into a trap. My aunt called while I was making breakfast. Her voice was gentle, concerned. The kind of tone you use with someone who might break. You're isolating just like when Grandpa died, she said. Maybe you need help. Have you thought about talking to someone? The parallel she drew was clever. I had isolated after Grandpa's death. I had struggled, but that was grief. This was survival. I tried to explain, but she cut me off. Mom's been under so much stress. And now this. We're all worried about you, sweetheart. Both of you. The family group chat exploded an hour later. Screenshots of old texts I'd sent Mom over the years. Thank you for being there when Dad hurt me. I'm so glad I have you. You're the only one who understands. Each message perfectly curated to show me as either a liar then or a liar now. Either way, I couldn't be trusted. Mom's sisters shared them like evidence in a trial they were conducting in the court of family opinion. I tried to gather support, called Dad's old friends, people who'd known him before the arrest. Most didn't answer. The ones who did were nervous, distant. They had families now, jobs. They couldn't get involved in something like this. One finally admitted he'd gotten a letter from Mom's lawyer. Any attempts to contact him about the case would be considered harassment. The letter had been very clear about the potential legal consequences. The real blow came when I discovered Mom still controlled the twins' health insurance. She'd refused to approve coverage for my brother's anxiety medication. The pharmacy called to tell me his prescription couldn't be filled. Dad's new job had insurance, but pre-existing conditions wouldn't be covered for 6 months. 6 months of a 14-year-old with anxiety disorder longer going without medication during the worst crisis of his life. Another chess move from mom. 3 days without real sleep. I made mistakes. At the meeting with the prosecutor, I accidentally endorsed the wrong page of therapy notes. My hands shook as I tried to correct it. The prosecutor watched with sharp eyes. I looked exactly like what mom's lawyer would say I was. Unstable, unreliable, maybe even intoxicated. The meeting ended with promises to be in touch. I could see the doubt creeping in. Mom was winning even from a hospital bed. Sarah had been my best friend since middle school. She'd held my hair back at parties, helped me pick out my prom dress, been there through everything. When she texted asking to meet for coffee, I thought finally, someone who'd understand. But she showed up looking uncomfortable, wouldn't meet my eyes. Her mother-in-law had seen the news, thought I might be dangerous. Sarah needed some space, just until things calmed down. She left money for her untouched latte and hurried out. I sat there staring at her lipstick mark on the cup, the last trace of a friendship I'd thought was unbreakable. The grocery store used to be a safe space, just picking up milk and bread, normal human activities. But the cashier who'd known our family for years made a show of asking about my poor mother, loud enough for everyone to hear. How is she doing? Such a devoted mother. This must be so hard for her. Other customers turned to stare. Some had their phones out, recording. I abandoned my groceries and fled. Mom's narrative was evolving. Through her lawyer, she claimed she'd been protecting me from real abuse by my father. She had dates, times, details that almost lined up with reality. One particular incident she described happened during a weekend when Dad had been at a conference. But the conference had been canceled last minute due to weather. He'd been home. Mom didn't know about the cancellation. It was the first crack in her story, but proving it meant tracking down records from 15 years ago. Dad's former colleague finally returned my calls. He sounded tired, defeated. He admitted the truth. He needed Mom's recommendation for his kid's private school application, the same school where Mom volunteered, where she had connections. If he testified about Dad's character, his kid wouldn't get in. Simple as that. He was sorry, but he had to think of his own family. I understood. I hated it, but I understood. The truth was becoming a liability. Proving Mom had lied about Dad's violence meant admitting I'd lied about the bruises in school. The nurse's records from back then still existed. My testimony was part of the court documents. Every truth I revealed made me look like a chronic liar, someone who couldn't be trusted. Mom had built the perfect trap. The truth would destroy me as much as it would her. Someone had been filming when the police arrested Mom. The video went viral. In it, you could see me in the background as they led her away. For just a moment, caught at the right angle, it looked like I was smiling. I wasn't. I was grimacing, trying not to cry. But frozen in a screenshot, shared thousands of times, it looked like satisfaction. The daughter who smiled as her mother was arrested. The comments were brutal. The threats started coming in. Mom's lawyer released a statement. Neither my client nor her daughter can back down now without destroying their credibility completely. It was brilliant in its simplicity. She'd acknowledged the standoff we were in, mutually assured destruction. If Mom admitted to coaching false memories, she'd go to prison. If I recanted, I'd be admitting to destroying my mother for no reason. We were locked in a death spiral of our own making. The local news picked up the story, then regional, then national. My face was everywhere, always that same exhausted photo from outside the hospital. Mom's photo was from better times, smiling at a school event, looking every inch the devoted mother. The narrative was writing itself. A family destroyed by mental illness and false accusations. They didn't say whose mental illness or whose false accusations. They didn't have to. The pictures told the story they wanted to tell. Mom's sister Catherine arrived at Dad's apartment the next morning carrying my old high school yearbook. She spread it across the kitchen table while the twins ate cereal, flipping to pages where classmates had written messages. Her finger traced over inscriptions about hoping my dad would come home soon, about missing having both parents at school events. How does the security guard know exactly when that camera footage gets wiped? His timing with telling her this is so perfect, it makes me wonder if he's been watching this family situation unfold for a while now. She read them aloud, her voice dripping with false concern. The twins listened, confused. Catherine's performance was masterful, painting me as someone who'd always been delusional about Dad, always creating fantasies about our family reuniting. The polygraph appointments came next. Mom's lawyer arranged for both of us to take them separately. I sat in a sterile room with sensors attached to my fingers, answering questions about whether I'd threatened Mom. The examiner's face remained neutral as the machine recorded my physiological responses. Mom took hers the same day, claiming I'd offered to hurt her if she didn't drop the custody case. We both asked. The truth was subjective now, filtered through years of manipulation and counter-manipulation. Dad discovered a box of my old emails while cleaning out storage. Mom's lawyer had subpoenaed them, and now they were evidence. One email, written when I was 12 during a particularly bad nightmare phase, contained the line about sometimes dreaming Dad came back and hurt Mom. I'd been processing the trauma of the trial, working through confused feelings about why Dad had supposedly done those terrible things. Now it was being presented as evidence of violent fantasies, proof that I'd always harbored aggressive thoughts toward my mother. My twin sister cornered me in Dad's bathroom while I was brushing my teeth. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, repeating words that weren't hers. Mom had told her I'd always been jealous because Dad loved her more before he went away. The accusation stung because there was a grain of truth buried in the lie. I had been jealous of my baby sister sometimes, the way all older siblings are, but Mom had twisted that normal emotion into something sinister, and now my sister believed it. The neighbor's nanny cam footage surfaced during discovery. It showed me gesturing animatedly during an argument with Mom in her driveway 2 weeks before her arrest. My hand had swept through the air. I was swatting at a wasp that had been buzzing around my head, but frozen in a single frame, it looked like I was raising my hand toward her. Mom's lawyer filed it as evidence of threatening behavior. Context didn't matter anymore, only optics. Family court treated my evidence like an attack. The judge viewed my recordings of Mom coaching the twins as an attempt to alienate them from their mother during her mental health crisis. The guardian ad litem assigned to the case took one look at the situation. A mother in psychiatric hold, a daughter who'd triggered it, confused minor children, and immediately recommended maintaining the status quo until Mom stabilized. Every piece of proof I presented was reframed as manipulation. I found the credit card alert by accident while checking my email. Mom had used my old tablet, still logged into my account, to book 3 one-way tickets to Costa Rica. The departure date was 2 weeks away. The names on the tickets, hers and the twins. No return flight. My hands shook as I screenshot the confirmation. She was planning to run, to take my siblings and disappear. But when I showed it to the lawyer, he shook his head. Without proof she intended to flee rather than take a vacation, it meant nothing. Mom's public Facebook page became became a weapon. She posted daily updates about healing from trauma, each one carefully crafted. But embedded in the seemingly innocent posts were details about my routines. A photo of her morning coffee mentioned how she used to enjoy quiet mornings before the doorbell rang at 7 a.m. A post about healing through nature mentioned the park where I jogged. She was telling her supporters exactly where to find me when I'd be alone, all while maintaining plausible deniability. My former therapist from high school was subpoenaed. I'd seen her for normal teenage anxiety, nothing related to dad or the trial. But mom's lawyer had combed through those session notes, finding every time I'd expressed anger about my home situation. Normal teenage frustration about curfews and chores was now evidence of long-standing rage toward my mother. The therapist looked apologetic as she was forced to testify about confidential sessions from years ago. The prison visiting hours were a disaster. I'd gone to see mom, hoping to record her admitting to the coaching. I kept my phone in my pocket, recording app running, but mom spotted the slight bulge immediately. She started crying, loud enough for the guards to hear, wailing about being set up again, about her daughter trying to entrap her. The guards intervened immediately, viewing me as the aggressor. They confiscated my phone, deleted the recording, and banned me from future visits. Mom's sister arrived at the twins' school claiming emergency temporary guardianship. She had paperwork, official-looking documents that the school secretary didn't question. By the time dad arrived for the 3 p.m. pickup, the twins were gone. It took 6 hours and police intervention to get them back. The school apologized profusely, but the damage was done. Mom's family had shown they could take the twins whenever they wanted, and the school's security was worthless. Dad's key character witness, a man who'd known him since college, chose early retirement over testifying. An anonymous complaint had been filed with his employer about inappropriate interest in minors. The complaint was baseless, obviously fabricated, but in the current climate, even the suggestion was career-ending. He apologized to dad through tears, but he had his own family to protect. Another witness neutralized by mom's strategic strikes. Catherine started sending me photos throughout the day. Her wearing mom's jewelry while sitting in mom's favorite chair. Her sleeping in mom's bed, surrounded by mom's pillows. Her spraying mom's perfume, the same scent that had filled the air during those testimony coaching sessions. Each photo came with captions about feeling close to her sister during this difficult time. She was recreating my triggers, showing me that mom's presence would always haunt me through her proxies. Mom's offer came through her lawyer on official letterhead. Drop all accusations, cease contact with the media, and I could have supervised visits with my siblings. 2 hours every other weekend, with a court-appointed supervisor present. The alternative was clearly stated. Continue fighting and risk never seeing them again. The twins were leverage, and mom knew exactly how to use them. My refusal was immediately spun in the family group chat. Screenshots of the offer circulated with commentary about how I was prioritizing revenge over my siblings' need for stability. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly had opinions about my selfishness. The narrative was clear. I'd chosen to destroy the family rather than accept a reasonable compromise. The timeline revelation came while organizing evidence with dad. I'd been certain the false memory coaching started right before the first Dr. Hendricks appointment, but buried in mom's journal were earlier entries. 6 months before we ever met the doctor, mom had been planting seeds. Casual mentions of feeling unsafe around dad, questions about whether I remembered anything strange. She'd been preparing the ground for false memories long before she found the right professional to harvest them. Dad revealed his own secret while we sat in his truck outside the courthouse. He'd been recording our family dinners on an old camcorder, back when he'd suspected mom was having an affair. The tapes were hidden in a storage unit mom didn't know about. His hands shook as he handed me the key. He'd never watched them after the arrest, couldn't bear to see our family before it shattered, but maybe they contained something useful now. The videos were devastating for unexpected reasons. They showed mom actually protecting me from her own mother's manipulation. Grandma had been the original architect of emotional manipulation in the family, and mom had fought against it until something shifted. In the later videos, mom began adopting grandma's tactics, becoming what she'd once resisted. The cycle of abuse had turned her from protector to perpetrator. Grandma faced an impossible choice when I showed her the evidence. Supporting my truth meant losing access to her great-grandchildren. Mom's sisters had made that clear, but denying what she knew meant enabling the cycle she'd started. She sat in her Florida condo, looking older than her years, weighing her options. Family loyalty versus moral truth. She chose the grandchildren, but slipped me a check for $5,000 as I left. For legal fees, she whispered. It was all she could do. The courthouse bathroom became an unexpected sanctuary. Mom's lawyer's assistant, a young woman named Catherine, cornered me there during a hearing. Her hands shook as she checked the stalls to ensure we were alone. She couldn't do this anymore, she said. The lies, the manipulation, watching a family destroy itself. She'd been asked to falsify documents, to backdate files. Her conscience was eating her alive. Catherine handed me a USB drive wrapped in toilet paper. She'd backed up mom's files before the office raid, everything the lawyer had been building. Her eyes darted to the door constantly as she explained. If anyone found out, her career was over. But she couldn't watch children be used as weapons anymore. She fled before I could thank her, leaving me holding what might be salvation or another trap. Dad's brother Sebastian emerged from years of silence with his own agenda. He wanted custody of the twins, claiming neither parent was fit. His real motivation became clear during mediation. The twins' trust funds, money their grandfather had left them, currently inaccessible until they turned 18, unless their guardian needed it for their care. Sebastian had debts, failing businesses. The twins were his financial salvation wrapped in a package of family concern. Sebastian rolls in after years of radio silence with custody papers and dollar signs in his eyes. Nothing says caring uncle quite like treating your nephew's trust funds as your personal bankruptcy bailout plan. Fighting Sebastian meant missing the twins' therapy session. The therapist left increasingly concerned voicemails about disturbing new disclosures the children had made. But I was stuck in legal proceedings, being painted as an unsupportive sister who prioritized court battles over their emotional needs. CPS added it to their file. Another mark against my fitness as a potential guardian. My bank account drained faster than water in a broken dam. Legal fees, court costs, psychiatric evaluations. Meanwhile, mom accessed victim compensation funds through the state, using them to pay for her high-powered defense attorney. The system designed to help abuse victims was funding my abuser's defense. The irony was suffocating. The restaurant confrontation was accidental. Dad and I had gone to grab food after court, not realizing it was the place where he'd proposed to mom 20 years ago. The elderly owner recognized us immediately. His face crumpled as he realized what we'd become. them. He'd watch them fall in love at table 6, serve them champagne when they got engaged. Now he was watching the aftermath of that love's destruction. He asked us to leave, politely but firmly. Some memories were too precious to taint. My internship ended with an email on a Friday afternoon. Mom's supporters had flooded my employer's Yelp page with 1-star reviews, calling the company complicit in family destruction. Clients were asking questions. The PR department was concerned. They wished me well in my future endeavors, effective immediately. My replacement started Monday. She was the daughter of one of Mom's church friends. Of course she was. The nights in my car blurred together. Dad's landlord wouldn't add me to the lease while litigation was pending. Too much liability, he said. So I parked outside Dad's building, sleeping in the back seat, showering at the gym. Dad would bring me coffee in the mornings, both of us pretending this was temporary, that justice would prevail soon. Dad's breaking point came on a rainy Tuesday. He found me organizing evidence at 3 a.m., surrounded by papers and red string like a conspiracy theorist. He sat on the floor beside me, took my hands in his. His words were gentle but firm. He could handle this legally. I was destroying myself for nothing. The pain in his eyes was unbearable. He'd already lost 13 years to Mom's lies. Now he was watching me lose myself to fighting them. The twins' teacher became collateral damage in our war. Someone reported her for failure to recognize signs of abuse. The investigation found no wrongdoing, but the damage was done. She was suspended pending review, her reputation in tatters. Her daughter asked why Mommy was crying at dinner. Another innocent life disrupted by Mom's web of manipulation. The teacher's husband filed for separation 2 weeks later. The stress of being dragged into our family drama, the suspicion from other parents, the whispers at school pickup. He couldn't handle it. Their marriage became another casualty in Mom's war. I added their faces to my mental list of people I'd failed by seeking truth. The evidence kept mounting, but so did the wreckage. Every step toward justice left broken lives in its wake. I pushed forward anyway, driven by something between determination and obsession. Mom had created a system where seeking truth caused more damage than living with lies, but I couldn't stop. The truth had become my addiction, as destructive as any substance. Dad's vulnerable moment came unexpectedly. We were reviewing court documents when he suddenly asked if Mom might actually believe her own lies. What if the false memories had become real to her through repetition? The question hung between us, heavy with implications. If she believed her own fabrications, was she evil or ill? Did it matter? My public admission to the school counselor was calculated. I sat in her office and confessed to lying about the bruises in elementary school. I explained how Mom had coached me, how I'd believed I was protecting our family. The counselor's face went through a journey of emotions, shock, sympathy, then professional distance. She had to report this. I knew that. I was destroying my own credibility to establish a pattern. The camcorder tapes from the storage unit revealed everything and nothing. Hours of family dinners, birthday parties, normal life. Then, buried in tape 17, the smoking GN, Mom practicing testimony coaching on my old dolls. Months before any memories supposedly emerged, she was rehearsing her manipulation, perfecting her technique. Dad had been filming her preparation for destroying him. Mom's emergency motion caught us off guard. Her lawyer filed to advance the trial date, knowing my attorney was handling another case. The conflict meant I'd have to represent myself or accept a delay that would leave the twins in limbo longer. Every option benefited Mom. She'd turned the legal system into a weapon aimed at my exhaustion. The motive emerged slowly through therapy notes and journal entries. Mom had wanted to be my only parent. Her own father had abandoned her at 7, left her mother for a younger woman. She'd sworn her children would never experience that split loyalty, so she'd removed Dad from the equation, ensured I'd never have to choose. Her twisted love had destroyed our family in the name of protecting it. The generational trauma was a poison passed down like a family heirloom. Grandma had used emotional manipulation to control Mom after her father left. Mom had sworn to be different, to break the cycle. Instead, she'd perfected it, refined the techniques, weaponized them against Dad. And now I was learning those same tactics, thinking 3 moves ahead, manipulating situations for evidence. I was becoming what I hated. The breakthrough with my brother came during an Xbox game. I sat beside him, playing badly, letting him win. Between matches, I asked gentle questions about things he remembered. No pressure, just curiosity. He mentioned the practice videos Mom had shown him, how to sit, where to look, what words to use when talking to the special doctor. His casual admission was worth more than all my evidence combined. The custody transfer felt hollow. The judge granted Dad temporary custody based on Mom's hospitalization and the emerging evidence. The twins packed their things in garbage bags, their lives reduced to what could fit in black plastic. Mom watched from her hospital window as they loaded into Dad's truck. Her breakdown was visible even from the parking lot. Genuine grief at losing her weapons, her children, her carefully constructed world. Mom's counterclaim landed like a precision strike. She accused me of parental alienation, of systematically turning the twins against her during her mental health crisis. The guardian ad litem found the claim credible. Every conversation I'd had with my siblings was now suspect. Every attempt to protect them reframed as manipulation. Mom had turned my rescue into an attack. Everything hinged on Dr. Hendricks now. Her testimony could validate our claims about systematic false memory implantation, but she was pleading the Fifth Amendment, refusing to incriminate herself. Her lawyer sat beside her at every deposition, objecting to every question. The other families she destroyed watched from the gallery, their hopes dying with each refusal to answer. I remembered tutoring Dr. Hendricks' son in math 2 years ago. He'd been struggling with algebra, and I'd helped him pass. Now he texted me, confused and hurt. His message was simple but devastating. He wanted to know why I was hurting his mom. His pain became another weight on my conscience. Even the corrupt had children who loved them. The therapist community split into factions. Some supported our claims, having suspected Dr. Hendricks for years. Others closed ranks, fearing similar accusations. I found myself blacklisted from mental health support just when I needed it most. No one wanted to treat the woman who'd exposed one of their own. Professional solidarity trumped patient care. The prosecutor explained the harsh reality during our final meeting. Emotional manipulation wasn't illegal without physical evidence of harm. The false memories were damaging but not criminal unless we could prove deliberate fraud. The burden of proof was almost impossible to meet. Mom might face professional consequences, but criminal charges were unlikely. Justice had limits, and we'd found them. Dad's contact at the courthouse newspaper changed everything. She'd covered his original trial and always felt something was wrong. She'd kept her notes, waiting for this moment. Her investigation revealed patterns in Dr. Hendricks' cases that prosecutors had missed. The article she published was careful, factual, but damning. Public opinion began to shift. The revelation about Dad's silence hit harder than any evidence. He'd He'd suspected the false memories from the beginning, but stayed quiet to protect me. He'd documented Mom's behavior before his arrest, gathered proof of her manipulation, but fighting back would have meant traumatizing me with the truth, so he'd chosen prison over destroying my relationship with my mother. His sacrifice was breathtaking in its selflessness. The college thesis was our final piece. A librarian Dad contacted had found Mom's senior paper in the archives. The title, Reconstructing Memory in Trauma Therapy, Techniques and Ethics. She'd studied exactly how to implant false memories, written 40 pages on the methodology. She'd known precisely what she was doing from the beginning. The smoking GN was academic, thorough, and absolutely damning. Victory tasted like ash. Knowing Dad had lived with this knowledge, gathering evidence while serving a sentence for crimes he didn't commit, broke something in me. He'd waited 13 years for me to be ready for the truth. Every birthday he'd missed, every milestone he'd watched from afar, he'd chosen that suffering to preserve whatever innocence I had left. I committed to Dad's approach. Patient, methodical, dignified. The urge for immediate vengeance burned in my chest, but I smothered it. Mom turned family therapy into a twisted game of chess where every piece was a person's life, and somehow she kept finding new boards to play on. Mom had taught me to think strategically, to plan moves ahead. Now I'd use those lessons against her, but with Dad's grace. I'd win by being everything she wasn't. Honest, patient, merciful, even in victory. Mom's affidavit claimed her memories had emerged naturally in therapy, but the recordings from Dr. Hendricks' office showed her reading from prepared scripts during sessions. The contradiction was undeniable. I presented it to the judge without gloating, maintaining the dignity Mom had never shown. I watched her realize the trap she'd walked into, her own words condemning her. The other Dr. Hendricks victims testified in a careful procession. Each family told their story. The false memories, the destroyed marriages, the imprisoned fathers. The pattern was undeniable. 12 families, same therapist, same techniques, same devastating results. The judge's face grew stonier with each testimony. Even legal professionals had limits to what they could ignore. Both sides prepared for the final hearing. The courtroom would be packed with divided family, former friends, and strangers who'd followed our story in the news. Everything we'd gathered, every piece of evidence, every sacrifice made for truth would culminate in one judge's decision. The war that started at my childhood dinner table would end in a courtroom. The truth had cost everything. Friendships, family, financial security, mental health, but lies had cost more. They'd cost Dad 13 years. They'd cost the twins their childhood. They'd cost me my ability to trust my own memories. As I organized evidence for the final time, I wondered if Mom understood that her greatest victim wasn't Dad or me, or even the twins. It was herself. She'd become so lost in her own lies that finding her way back to truth might be impossible. The courthouse reporter's article shifted everything overnight. Dad forwarded it to me at dawn. His text simple. Read this. The piece connected dots prosecutors had missed. 12 families, identical patterns, all leading back to Dr. Hendricks. My hands trembled as I scrolled through victim testimonies that mirrored our experience perfectly. Each story validated what I'd been screaming into the void for months. The journalist had done something brilliant. She'd tracked down court transcripts from Dr. Hendricks' previous practice locations. The pattern stretched back 20 years across 3 states. Always divorced mothers, always custody battles, always recovered memories emerging at convenient times. The evidence was circumstantial but overwhelming. Public opinion began its slow turn. Dad's sacrifice became clear through old prison letters the journalist had obtained. He'd written to judges, lawyers, anyone who'd listen, documenting Mom's behavior patterns from behind bars. Every letter went unanswered. He'd known the truth would sound like desperate lies from a convicted abuser, so he'd waited, gathering evidence for the day someone might believe him. That day had finally come. The college thesis discovery sent shockwaves through our legal team. Dad had spent weeks tracking down the librarian who'd helped Mom research it 22 years ago. The woman remembered Mom clearly, intense, focused, asking specific questions about memory malleability in children. The thesis itself read like a how-to manual for what she'd done to our family. 40 pages detailing exactly how to implant false memories, complete with case studies and methodology. I watched Mom's lawyer read it during discovery, his face draining of color. He'd built her defense on the premise that she genuinely believed the abuse had occurred. The thesis destroyed that narrative completely. She'd studied the techniques, understood the psychology, implemented them with surgical precision. This wasn't delusion. It was deliberate. The prosecutor finally took notice. Armed with a journalist's investigation and Mom's thesis, she reopened the case files. I sat in her office as she spread documents across her desk, connecting threads that had been invisible before. Dr. Hendricks' pattern was undeniable now. Mom's knowledge was documented. The false memories had a paper trail. Dad's contact from the prison years proved invaluable. A guard who'd worked his block came forward with logs showing Mom's visitation patterns. She'd visited exactly 3 times in 8 years, each time right before a custody hearing. The guard remembered because Dad would spend days after each visit in visible distress, though he'd never filed complaints. Even in prison, he'd protected her reputation. The forensic analyst's testimony changed the game entirely. She'd examined the recordings from Dr. Hendricks' office with specialized software. Mom's coaching sessions showed clear evidence of script preparation. The analyst demonstrated how Mom's vocal patterns changed when reciting prepared material versus spontaneous speech. The difference was scientifically measurable. Mom had literally rehearsed the manipulation. Mom's breakdown during the hearing was spectacular. As evidence mounted, her carefully maintained facade cracked. She began contradicting her own testimony, claiming memories that conflicted with documented facts. Her lawyer tried damage control, but Mom spiraled, insisting Dad had somehow orchestrated everything from prison. The judge watched with barely concealed alarm as Mom's narrative collapsed in real time. The other Dr. Hendricks families filled the gallery during testimony. I recognized their faces from support group meetings, hollow-eyed mothers who'd realized too late what they'd done, teenagers struggling with implanted memories, fathers who'd lost everything to lies. We were a congregation of the manipulated, bearing witness to the system that had destroyed us. Dr. Hendricks finally broke her silence, but not how we'd hoped. She took a plea deal, admitting to professional misconduct but not criminal conspiracy. Her testimony was carefully worded to minimize legal exposure. She acknowledged using controversial therapeutic techniques, but claimed she'd believed the memories were real. The other families watched their chance for justice evaporate. Mom's sisters began distancing themselves as evidence mounted. Catherine stopped sending triggering photos. The family group chat went silent. Even Uncle James backed away from the property transfer demands. Rats fleeing a sinking ship, but I felt no satisfaction. They'd enabled this for years, choosing comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. The twins' therapy sessions revealed the depth of Mom's preparation. My brother described practice sessions where Mom had shown shown them videos of other children testifying. She'd made them rehearse responses, timing their pauses, practicing their tears. He thought it was a game, like preparing for a school play. The therapist's notes documented their confusion as they tried to separate real memories from rehearsed ones. Sebastian's custody grab fell apart when financial auditors examined his debts. His business bankruptcy filing showed he'd been planning to liquidate the twins' trust funds to cover personal losses. The judge dismissed his petition with prejudice. Another family vulture circling for scraps, but at least this one got caught. Dad's quiet strength throughout the proceedings amazed me. He sat through every hearing, enduring Mom's accusations with stoic dignity. When she claimed he'd molested me, he simply provided alibis. When she insisted he'd threatened her, he produced witnesses. He'd learned that emotional reactions only fed her narrative. His calm destroyed her credibility more than any argument could. The criminal investigation expanded beyond our family. Other victims came forward with similar stories about Dr. Hendricks and copycat therapists. The prosecutor built a case for systematic fraud, though proving criminal intent remained challenging. Mom faced charges for filing false reports and perjury, but the statute of limitations protected her from the worst consequences. Mom's mental health evaluation revealed a complex picture. Multiple psychiatrists diagnosed her with personality disorders exacerbated by trauma from her own father's abandonment. She'd created false memories to justify keeping me from experiencing similar abandonment. In her twisted logic, destroying Dad was protecting me. The evaluation didn't excuse her actions, but explained the mechanism behind them. The judge's ruling was methodical and damning. He outlined how Mom had weaponized the legal system, exploited therapeutic practices, and destroyed multiple lives through calculated manipulation. He suspended her parental rights indefinitely, ordered supervised visitation only, and mandated extensive psychiatric treatment. The twins would remain with Dad while receiving intensive therapy to unravel the false memories. Financial consequences followed legal ones. Mom lost access to victim compensation funds and faced civil lawsuits from Dad and other families. The house Uncle James had wanted transferred was placed in trust for the twins' education. Mom's retirement accounts were frozen pending restitution hearings. The financial empire she'd built on lies crumbled as quickly as her narrative. Extended family chose sides with brutal efficiency. Dad's relatives, who'd stayed silent during his imprisonment, suddenly remembered their loyalty. Mom's family split between those who'd suspected the truth and those still clinging to denial. Holiday dinners would never happen again. Some bridges weren't just burned, they were atomized. The twins' adjustment to living with Dad was painful to watch. They'd been programmed to fear him for so long that normal interactions felt threatening. My sister flinched when he entered rooms. My brother tested boundaries constantly, waiting for the violence Mom had promised would come. Dad's patience seemed infinite, but I saw the hurt in his eyes each time they pulled away. I found an apartment 3 blocks from Dad's place, close enough to help with the twins, but far enough to maintain boundaries. The landlord almost rejected my application after Googling my name, but Dad co-signed. My new neighbors whispered when I passed, but at least I had somewhere to shower that wasn't a gym. The job search was brutal. My name was poison in our city. Every interview ended with uncomfortable questions about the news coverage. I finally found work at a call center 40 minutes away where nobody watched local news. The pay barely covered rent, but anonymity was worth more than money. Mom's facility was an hour north, a private psychiatric hospital specializing in personality disorders. Her treatment team contacted me monthly with updates I didn't want to hear. They said she was making progress, learning to distinguish between real memories and created ones. I deleted the messages unread. The twins' therapy became our new routine. 3 times a week, I drove them to appointments where they slowly untangled truth from fiction. Some days they made progress. Other days they accused me of lying about Mom's lies. The therapist warned recovery would take years. I believed her. Dad returned to work at a construction company that had hired him despite his record. His boss had followed the case and believed in second chances. Dad threw himself into physical labor, coming home exhausted but satisfied. Honest work after years of forced idleness seemed to heal him in ways therapy couldn't. Support group meetings became my anchor. Other survivors of false memory cases met weekly in a church basement. We shared stories, strategies, and silence when words weren't enough. Nobody judged. Everyone understood. It was the only place I felt normal. The legal bills consumed everything. Even with Grandma's help, the debt felt insurmountable. Dad and I pooled resources, living on rice and beans while lawyers got rich off our misery. Mom's frozen assets might eventually provide restitution, but legal processes moved at glacial speed. Dr. Hendricks lost her license permanently but avoided jail time. She moved to another state where her reputation couldn't follow. The other families tried civil suits, but she'd protected her assets well. Justice had limits, and we'd found them all. 2 years later, I sat in Mom's facility visiting room. She looked smaller, grayer, worn down by medication and therapy. We didn't discuss the past. Her treatment team had advised against it. Instead, she showed me art therapy projects, talked about group sessions, mentioned learning to recognize when her thoughts spiraled into fantasy. The conversation was stilted, careful, monitored by staff. She asked about the twins without expecting answers. I told her they were in therapy without mentioning their struggles. We existed in a careful present tense, avoiding the minefield of our history. When visiting hours ended, she touched my hand briefly. Her fingers didn't tap any rhythms. I drove home to Dad's house where the twins were doing homework. My sister had stopped flinching. My brother had started calling Dad Dad instead of carefully avoiding any title. They were in intensive therapy, slowly learning to distinguish between what was real and what Mom had planted. Progress was measured in millimeters, but it was progress. The healing journey stretched ahead endlessly. Trust would take years to rebuild. The twins might never fully recover the childhood Mom had stolen. Dad would always carry the scars of false imprisonment. I'd always be the daughter who destroyed her mother, no matter which version of the story people believed. But we were together, building something real on the ruins of Mom's lies. It wasn't happiness exactly, but it was truth. After everything, truth was enough. Like and subscribe for more content just like this. It helps a lot more than you all think. Thank you.